Hey guys and gals, it's your buddy Drew from Living History's Mysteries and Ferocious Feline Productions. You know, for those of you that have been with me the longest, you know I love those crossover stories. When I go to look at the history of something and find out that the history just wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for the unusual activity that takes place on these sites. I was actually going to do this video on the historic, famous Stanley Hotel. But the more I delved in to the history of the Stanley, the more history of paranormal activity I uncovered. And everybody knows that the Stanley was the inspiration for one of the greatest horror novels ever written. Check this out. This is good.
The Stanley Hotel, a chilling, haunted hotel that is a popular location for ghost hunters and fans of horror, gaining its notoriety after Stephen King spent a haunting night in room 217. The hotel still chills its patrons to this day. The nightmares Stephen King experienced in that room left a mark on his psyche that could only be released by writing the book, The Shining. Some say that the Stanley Hotel is a vortex, gathering energy and attracting spirits, especially because of the quartz and limestone that the hotel sits on. Underneath the hotel, there are a massive cave system, and the whole walls are covered in quartz and limestone, and people believe that quartz and limestone attracts paranormal energies. After hearing some of the stories of the encounters of the hotel, I think there might be something to this theory. The Stanley Hotel was built by Freeland Oscar Stanley, who happened to be the inventor of the steam-powered car. In 1903, Stanley became sick with tuberculosis, a disease that was running rampant all through the Victorian era, even up until the mid-1900s. The primary treatment for tuberculosis at the time was fresh country air, sunlight, and a healthy diet. So Stanley and his wife traveled up into the Rocky Mountains to try to fight off his sickness. Over the course of that summer, Stanley's health not only improved, but he found himself falling in love with the beautiful natural surroundings. He returned every summer after, but soon he began to tire of the rustic home he was staying in and the lazy solitude. He then came up with an idea, and he decided that he would turn the whole area into a resort town for others to come experience it with him. In 1907, construction for the Stanley Hotel began, a 48-room grand hotel that was designed to cater to the upper-class social circle of Stanley and his wife. Additionally, he built the hotel as a respite for others who were sick with tuberculosis to stay and get well. He even designed the building in such a way that the entire hotel would catch the air and let it travel through, so there was always fresh air for those who needed it. In 1926, Stanley sold the hotel to a private firm who took over running it. By 1929, the hotel was in foreclosure. Stanley, not wanting to see his hotel destroyed, bought it back out of the foreclosure and he revived it. He sold it once more in 1930 to a fellow automobile magnate, Roe Emery of Denver. By the 1970s, the hotel was struggling again, and it was facing another foreclosure and possible demolition. But then Stephen King spent a night at the hotel, and after his book The Shining was released, it brought back new life to the hotel, and it's been thriving ever since. Now, let's delve into some of the most famous ghost encounters of the patrons and paranormal investigators that have visited the Stanley Hotel, and we will end with the story of Stephen King's night in room 217, so stick around. Each of the paranormal accounts that have occurred in the Stanley Hotel have all occurred in specific areas of the hotel. So I'm going to walk you through each story, starting from the bottom of the property and working our way up to the top. So let's begin at the bottom with the caves. The caves, utilized by staff as it was customary at that time for staff to not be seen traveling through the main areas. The underground cave system connected to all areas of the Stanley Hotel, from rooms to the restaurant to the laundry and so forth. The caves have a high concentration of limestone and quartz in the walls, which are thought to be minerals that capture supernatural energy. It is said that the caves are haunted by a gray cat, but not the same cat that some patrons report inside the hotel. In the cave system, visitors have seen a gray cat with glowing green eyes appear and then run away. Additionally, visitors and staff report smelling delicious baked goods with no source of where the smell is coming from. This has led many to believe that a pastry chef haunts the cave system as well. Many believe it was the pastry chef that worked the Stanley when it first opened. The Ice House. The ice house used to be what people would use for a refrigerator back then. People would buy big blocks of ice and keep it in a room to safely chill food. Now, the old ice house on the property has been remodeled since, and it's now a museum. Visitors to the museum report seeing spirits of two boys. They've seen them running around the museum, playing and laughing as boys do. Apparently, one of them is named Billy, and he will sometimes show up as a blurry figure in pictures. These spirits appear to just be friendly and very social. The pet cemetery. There is a pet cemetery on the property, and as such, two pets are often seen in the hotel. The first one being a dog, a big furry golden retriever who many report scratching at their doors. As well, this golden retriever is known to bring newspapers to people's hotel rooms. Sometimes people will wake up after hearing the scratching. In the morning, there will be a newspaper sitting on the floor. This dog is a friendly animal. He's seen in other parts of the hotel here and there. He seems to just want to make the patrons' stay a more enjoyable stay. The other animal who's haunting the hotel is a cat. Apparently, it's a big, fluffy cat who can sometimes be seen wandering the main floor areas, and a few people have caught this cat in photos. However, the cat tends to show up the most in the pet-friendly rooms. Guests have reported feeling a cat jumping onto the bed to cuddle up. When they reach over to pet the cat, nothing is there. This cat is a very friendly spirit and just wants to cuddle. The basement. An employee that used to work at the Stanley, his name was Paul, he brought a couch to put into the basement so he had a place to lounge on during breaks. Paul unfortunately died in 2005, and to this day, employees report seeing a figure laying down on that same couch in the basement. Additionally, some have reported lights flickering and doors opening and closing in the basement as well. So Paul's spirit was brought back to the Stanley even after death. The Vortex. The staircase, nicknamed the Vortex, is the centerpiece of the beautiful lobby of the Stanley Hotel. Investigators and psychics say the energy gathered there is so intense it's acting as a portal or a magnet for the spirits. With the quartz and the limestone and all the cave systems underneath the hotel, this may be true. It may be acting as a beacon for such energies to gather. Guests have reported feeling faint and dizzy on the stairs. They reported cold spots, and a lot of guests have reported the feeling like someone just walked through them. One employee was traversing the stairs one time and started getting very sick to her stomach, and she had to stop. Additionally, guests and investigators have reported seeing Mr. and Mrs. Stanley on the staircase watching over the hotel, holding their hands, smiling as they watch over the patrons. Some investigators have caught pictures of distorted beings and orbs on the staircase. There was even a very convincing photograph of a young girl captured on the stairs. The picture made it into numerous press outlets as well. Everyone who was there reports no girl was walking down the stairs, and all people were accounted for. And it's the image I'm showing on the screen right now. The concert hall. The concert hall was built as a gift for Mrs. Stanley, and many report to this day seeing her sitting at the piano and playing it. Some visitors report hearing piano music late into the night. Another ghost found in the concert hall is Paul, the handyman. When Paul worked at the hotel, there was an 11 p.m. curfew, so he can often be heard telling people to get out when it gets too late. There was even one report of a construction worker being nudged by an invisible force when he was working in the hall late at night. Paul also enjoys playing with the flashlights of the tour groups. He is said to make them flicker upon request. So Paul, he's a friendly ghost. He's just a stickler for the rules. The bar and the billiard room. While both Mr. and Mrs. Stanley are seen throughout the hotel, they are seen most often in their respective favorite locations. Mrs. Stanley being at her piano, and Mr. Stanley being at the bar in the billiard room. So the apparition of Mr. Stanley is most often found in the bar or the billiard room if you're looking for him. Now, this is all the first floor. Next, if we follow order here, we would talk about room 217. However, since this is the room connected to Stephen King, I'll be discussing it in the last section with Stephen King's story of his stay at the Stanley. So we're going to skip over floor 2 and we're going to go up to floor 3. Room 302. The guests of room 302 have reported hearing whispers of a woman in this room. They've never been able to make out what's being said. They just report the whispers almost as a mumble. Some people have found them disturbing, and some people feel like the whispers are trying to tell them something, but they can't even make out a word. It all just sounds like a jumble. Regardless, people have felt a little bit eerie and creeped out by these whispers. So if you stay in room 302, be prepared to hear whispers through the night. Now, the most haunted area of the hotel is the 4th floor. The 4th floor initially was the attic of the hotel, which was eventually repurposed into lodging for female employees as well as children and nannies of guests. The 4th floor is the most haunted floor of the hotel. It is recommended to book a room on the 4th floor if you're planning a paranormal investigation. The 4th floor reports children running around and laughing late into the night. As well, this floor has the most reported sightings of full-body apparitions. Inside each of the rooms on the 4th floor, closet doors are opened and shut, and clothing and items get moved around, often put away properly and neatly in the drawers. Now we're going to go into detail about a few specific rooms that are very haunted on the 4th floor. Room 401. Room 401 is reported to be the creepiest of all the rooms. It is said the ghost of a Lord Dunraven resides here. People often smell the burning pipe tobacco of Lord Dunraven. However, guests have reported that the entity in this room is very unfriendly. Women claim to have been touched inappropriately. Many feel uneasy when sleeping in this room. One woman getting out of the shower felt like she was being grabbed from her back. There's one report as well of a man witnessing his wedding ring slide from the counter and down the drain of the sink in the bathroom. So if you stay in room 401, be prepared for a very unfriendly encounter. Room 407. In room 407, guests report being tucked into bed by something invisible. Others report feeling someone sitting on the end of their bed. When they get up to look, nothing is there but an indentation in the blankets. The entity in room 401 doesn't seem to be unfriendly. Guests more or less just report this entity as watching, looking over them. So a stay in room 407 means that you'll be tucked into bed at night. Room 428. Room 428 seems to be the most haunted of all the rooms. It has the most activity reported, but luckily the ghost in this room is a friendly cowboy. There are no reports of a cowboy dying at the hotel, but the historians of Estes Park believe that this ghost is Rocky Mountain Jim Nugent, because apparently he was a big flirt and this ghost is known to give phantom kisses to women when they go to sleep. He tends to be more active when a woman is staying in the room rather than the man. Most people report a cool chill in the room and feelings of being watched. Others have seen the full apparition of a cowboy sitting in the corner of the room or at the end of the bed. Sometimes he stands up and approaches the bed, looking like he wants to tell the person something important, but he can't seem to be able to communicate. Additionally, there's no floor above the 4th floor, as this used to be the attic. Yet people who stay in this room report hearing sounds of furniture being moved, footsteps walking above them, and many noises, as if there's something else above them. So if you're looking for a really active place to investigate, maybe think about booking room 428 and bring a woman with you. Alright, now we're going to circle back and we're going to discuss room 217 and then get into Stephen King's supernatural night at the Stanley. Room 217 is a prominent room in the book The Shining. Stephen King added some scenes of a room and it was sort of based on this room that he stayed in. There were no deaths in room 217, but there was a very bad accident there. In 1911, the valley flooded and caused the hotel to lose power, so Mr. Stanley installed gas lighting. But what they didn't know was one of the lines was leaking in room 217. The head chambermaid, Elizabeth Wilson, went into the room and lit a candle, caused a huge explosion. She was blown from the 2nd floor onto the 1st floor. Even tubs were blown out of the side of the buildings. It was a very large explosion. Elizabeth ended up in a coma for a short short time, but she did survive the blast. And eventually, she came back to work at the Stanley Hotel. She worked there until 1950. But it seems like after her death, she came back to the hotel to take care of room 217. Guests and staff report her to be a very friendly ghost. Guests often wake up to a tidier room, finding their clothes put away, suitcases organized, and the room cleaned up. One couple told the staff that their bed was being made around them during the night while they were still in the bed. However, Elizabeth, it seems, doesn't like unmarried couples. If you stay in room 217 as an unmarried couple, you'll feel a chilly, dark presence and something laying in between the two of you. Additionally, when you wake up, often the man's suitcase will be all packed up, seemingly Elizabeth trying to tell the man to get out. It wasn't just Stephen King who had an experience in this room. Actor Jim Carrey stayed in room 217 during the filming of Dumb and Dumber. He apparently got so spooked in that room that he ran from the room half naked in the middle of the night. And many of the crew members also reported feeling very creeped out in the room as well. So this is the most popular room, and often people are always trying to book it because of it relating back to Stephen King and his night there. So let's get in to Stephen King's night in room 217. In 1974, Stephen King and his wife Tabitha were living in Boulder. Stephen was having trouble writing his project, Darkshine. He started looking for an isolated location so he could get inspiration for the novel when the locals told him about the Stanley Hotel. King and his wife went to stay for a night. It just so happened that it was the end of the season and they had the entire hotel to themselves. The eerie setting of the Grand Hotel, with them as isolated guests, got King's creative thoughts to move again. He started feeling inspired to write. Stephen King is quoted as saying, "It was like God had put me there to hear that and see those things." When he and his wife went to bed that night, King had a horrible nightmare. His 3-year-old son was being chased by a fire hose down the hallways of the hotel. The fear in his child's eyes jolted him awake, and he found himself in a huge sweat. He was so upset by the dream, he got up, lit a cigarette, and sat in a chair looking out at the mountains. By the time he finished his cigarette, he already developed the outline for The Shining in his mind. Additionally, the creepy bathtub scene in The Shining, when King went to the bathroom, pulled back the pink curtain, and saw the clawfoot tub, he thought, what if somebody died here? And at that moment, he said that he knew he had a book. The Shining was published in 1977, and it was the third huge success of his career. Eventually, the book was made into a film directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it just so happened Stephen King did not like the direction that it went. It adjusted his story too much. So King ended up directing a miniseries version, and it matched his book and told the story the way he wanted. The miniseries was also filmed at the Stanley Hotel. So if you've only seen the movie and haven't seen the miniseries, I definitely recommend you check out the miniseries. So, where does that leave us with the hotel? Let me just go over a few final thoughts. The Stanley Hotel was facing closure and possible abandonment or demolition when Stephen King brought life back to the historic hotel with this novel. Since then, the hotel has been a fascinating location for paranormal investigators and horror enthusiasts. The wonder of the Stanley Hotel continues to impress everyone to this day. Personally, reading through a lot of these ghost stories, I'm beginning to wonder if spirits are being drawn in by what's there at the hotel. As after staff members have died, it seems that they're coming back to stay at the hotel permanently. But what do you think? Do you believe these ghost stories? Have you ever stayed at the Stanley? Do you have any ghost stories of your own? Make sure that you leave a comment below.
Welcome back. You know, it's like I was saying in the beginning. You guys know I love my history. You know I love my paranormal. But when they blend together, when they fit together, like the bricks in a foundation, the story's even better. The history of the Stanley Hotel is a mysterious, dark history, but it wouldn't make any sense without the history of the paranormal activity and how it influenced Stephen King to write The Shining and very possibly Pet Sematary as well. He's a brilliant author. I remember being in school and reading his stories and being scared to death. to know that the influence for one of the greatest horror novels ever written came from an overnight stay in the Stanley makes the story even better. What's the truth behind it? Is it truly haunted? Or is it just overactive imaginations? A point well made in this video is the quartz and limestone that's in the caves and in the walls of the Stanley. Everybody knows the scientific backing behind quartz. It does have its own energy signature. That's why older radios, CBs, things like that would not work without a small sliver of quartz crystal in them. They were the power source. And they do amplify electromagnetic sources. Who knows? Who knows? But that's all we've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed this little look at the history of the Stanley Hotel and how it influenced one of the greatest horror novels ever written. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. God bless you, God love you, we do. And we'll see you out there.